Hello lovely stitchy friends, I'm Kat and I'm delighted to welcome you to my channel Catkin and Lily, where we talk all things cross stitch. And today there's more doing of cross stitch. It's a Stitch With Me video and I have brought the winter's gift. Isn't she looking just absolutely fabulous? So much so I can't even quite get all of her in. I've unrolled so you can see, but yeah, it's getting difficult to fit all of this in. I'll pull this down a little bit. I'm going to roll this back up because I'm going to need this rolled up for stitching purposes. Let's bring her down. There we go. I've got all the way. I've just got this top section up here to do, and the gorgeous little Arctic fox, which is where I want to start stitching today. So while I roll this up, welcome. If this is your first stitch along with me, then welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to spend some more time with me and hopefully get some stitching done. I know a lot of you like to stitch while I'm stitching, which is amazing. I know a few of you don't, and you just watch me, which is slightly amazing also. But whatever you're up to, I hope you'll enjoy seeing some stitches put in on this beautiful lady. Now, as usual, I will probably be doing a bit of it's a kind of brain dump while I'm stitching, explaining how I'm moving around the pattern and what I'm stitching. And I've got some fractional stitches today that I wanted to start with, just so I can show you those as well. And if I can manage it, I might also talk a little bit more about my trip to Iceland, because I did mention in my regular floss tube videos that I've been in Iceland for a couple of weeks. I'm back for more than a couple of weeks now. And I did chat a little bit about it, but yeah, there's probably more to say about it and how amazing it was. So we might chat about that as well as we stitch. So I will put in, let's start by putting in, I've shown you this beautiful lady and some of you will know what this is, but let's put in the picture of this project. This is The Winter's Gift by Joan Elliott. I've been stitching this one. I actually don't know how long I've been stitching this. I think I started it towards the end of... When did I start it? No, I actually have no idea. Not more than a year anyway. So I'm hoping that we can finally finish this one this year. And I'm stitching this on beautiful hand-dyed fabric. This is the recommended fabric from Polstitches. It's absolutely gorgeous. I can't remember the name now, but it's on the screen on the info panel anyway. So that's the fabric. It's a 28 count. And I've got my pattern here. I'm working from a paper pattern. Obviously I won't bring that in because I can't show you the paper pattern, but I've got that next to me here so I can see what I'm stitching. I've got my threads over this side as well. And I think we're ready to go. Let's just get into it. I've probably forgotten something, but we'll find out soon enough. So here we are. That's a good start, isn't it? I can't actually talk. My threads are all on floss drops. I always mention these because I get lots of comments about these. I will leave links in the description to these, which are Annie's Keepers. And I've just got stickers that I've popped on there. So I've got my symbols and my numbers on there as well. And I've got these flesh colours. Now there's just, what I want to stitch is her hand, which is just in here. So it's only a few stitches of each of these three colours for the skin tone. So I have done a little bit of prep here and got some of the threads ready to go. Now I think, did I do it? No, I didn't. I've done it for those. I didn't do it for this one, so I can show you what I would do because I only need to do 2 stitches of this colour. So I'll take my thread off of there. So I've got a metre length here. And I've got my 6 strands. Now, actually, one thing you can do when you want to get the end of this, it doesn't always work, especially if it's been a bit older, but sometimes if you tap the end of the thread, it sort of causes it to splay out a bit. It hasn't very much in this case. Let me see if it does it with the other end. Sometimes when you tap the end, it sort of, I did a bit with that one. You can see that it's made these spread out a little bit more. Makes it easier sometimes to pick the end of one. I find that works better, that tapping, on a newly cut thread length. So I'm going to pull my one strand out of there, pop that one back on. Now, so I've got this, and all I need to do with this is 2 stitches. No, 2 and a fractional. So I'm going to fold over the end so that I've got a loop and just take this small piece. Even that's probably more than I need. I don't want it too tiny though, because it'll just be a nuisance to work with. So I'm going to cut that and then put the remaining bit back on my floss drop. Like that. So I've just got this little piece that I'm going to work with. And I will zoom us in a little bit so that we can see a bit closer up on the stitching. Now I don't want to get too close because otherwise I will be virtually poking you in the eye. Right, I think we're where we need to be. Oh no, actually that's probably a bit zoomed in too much by the time I've then lifted it up as well. Right, so this is where we're starting. And I'm going to do my loop start from the front. So I've got my tiny little piece so I can loop start and take that back down. So I've got 2 whole stitches there, and then this next one, this is a 3/4 stitch. Now, I don't know whether, hopefully you can see, I've already got the quarter stitch here that was in the grey. Now, my back stitch line on here is kind of going to cut across here. It's not charted as 2 half stitches. If the back stitch line, you'll see on some of the others, if the back stitch line goes properly 45 degrees across a stitch, I'll probably just do 2 half stitches. In this case it isn't. The back stitch line is a little bit more, instead of being proper 45, it's kind of like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this one a 3/4 stitch. So I'm going into the middle, and then I'll do this stitch, do that top arm in that one. So I've got a 3/4 stitch in this flesh colour, and I've got a 1/4 stitch in the grey underneath there. Now that's because in the pattern, if you look at the picture, this hand is basically the top part of the stitching. So I would say her hand is on top of the foxtail. So this is the most prominent part. So if I've got a choice what to do as a 1/4 and what to do as a 3/4, then I'm going to pick the, I guess the bit that's at the front of the stitching. Whatever's in the foreground, that's the word I'm trying to find. That's the bit that I will pick to do as the 3/4 stitch. Now that was a bit inefficient. I only had those few stitches. I've still got a bit left on there, which that's fine. So we've got our couple stitches of that very lightest colour. So I'm going to switch now to the next colour, and this is where I have prepped myself a little bit. I've already got myself my short piece here ready to do these few stitches. Now we're on needle threading challenges already. Right, this one is going in here. So again, I've got some whole stitches of this, and then I think this one is just whole stitches. Oh, and I have to apologise because I do seem to have a little bit of a cold at the moment. So I apologise if I don't think I'm sounding overly full of cold. But if I do have to sneeze or blow my nose, I will try and pause the video because I don't think any of you need that. And I can already feel my nose is getting a bit runny. So yes, hopefully we won't have snotty noises on the video. So yeah, just 4 regular stitches on here. It's been quite funny while I've been stitching this because there's one little quarter stitch of grey when I was stitching this fox's tail, one little tiny quarter stitch out here, and every time I catch sight of it as I've been stitching, I keep thinking there's a speck of fluff on my fabric, and I keep trying to brush it off and then realising that it's actually a quarter stitch. Right, that's all of that one. I did say not many stitches of this, of each of these colours. And then we're into the darkest colour. Again, I've prepped myself a little piece of that. And then once we finish this, we can get a little bit more into the fox. I've been so looking forward to stitching the fox on this. That's why I've been most recently working this sleeve, so I could come over here and do the fox. Now, I'm going to go from the back for this stitch. Sometimes I do like to do the loop start from the back. You can do it from the front, even if it's, you know, sort of all surrounded, but sometimes it just risks having it not look quite so neat. So then I might just go from a loop start from the back. Now let's see. And then I think we're going to get into, yeah, I've got 2 little half stitches. Now with the half stitches at the end here, I am going to do them as half stitches, because the back stitch line, so this is going to complete this stitch here. And I'm going to leave it like that. So it has just got a quarter stitch and a quarter stitch, because my back stitch line is going to cut over there and fill that in. And I've got another half stitch under here, and again I've already done the grey, so that's now finished that stitch. And that is it. That's her hand. All done. Very, very small bit of skin. There we go. That's the hand all done. Okay, let's get into a few more stitches with the Arctic fox. And yes, we're still on these thread colours. Get a few more stitches out of it this time. So we're working up into, this is the body of the fox. It's when you get just a few little stitches at a time like that that it doesn't always progress very fast when you're stitching. Changing colour just to do a couple of stitches is not always ideal. But here we go, let's get a few more. And these ones, you can see I've got lots of gaps in here. These are all beads. There's a lot of beads in this section on her arm, which is going to look lovely, I think. And as always, if you've seen me stitching before, my stitching in hand will come as no surprise to you. Just going to rejig that. Let's see if I can make sure that I try and keep this in shot. So this is actually my second video of the day. It's Tuesday the 12th of November, which I should know, as I say, since I've already filmed a video this morning, which was very exciting because it was my first Tuesday morning coffee and chat video that I filmed for my Patreon. And I will say a huge thank you. If you're watching this and you're one of my Patreon members, then thank you so much for coming and joining me over there. It's shaping up to be an absolutely wonderful community. I'm very excited for it. And as I say, I filmed a little video. Oh no. Let me try that again. I was trying to stick my needle in so that I know where I want to take my thread. Yes, one of the things I'm doing over on Patreon is that on the alternate Tuesdays when I'm not filming a floss tube video, I hop on there and do a little video about whatever's got me excited at the time, which was quite a lot. There's always quite a lot of stitchy stuff that I'm excited about, to be honest. So if you're not a Patreon member and you'd like to see what that's all about, then hop over and take a look. There is a link in the description. But I realise it's maybe not for everybody. But I do think it's going to be huge amounts of fun. And say I had fun filming my little video this morning. Little updates of what's been going on. I'm still here. I'm just enjoying a little bit of stitchy time. I know you guys don't mind if I'm sometimes a little bit quieter. I think I'll be feeling a little bit wiped out from this cold. I've definitely been a little bit lower energy. It's definitely not the worst cold I've ever had, but yeah, it does take it out of you a little bit, doesn't it? I've also not been doing quite as much stitching because I've actually had a slight shoulder issue as well. I don't think it's been caused by stitching, and I don't think it's been worsened by it, but I did try and do a little bit less stitching just to see if it helped. As I say, I'm not sure it did, so perhaps it's not stitchy related. I hope you guys are all keeping well at the moment, or as well as you can, and that you've been enjoying some good stitchy time. Not least, as I say, hopefully while you're watching me, you can get some stitchy time. I hope so, because clearly I'm not feeling super talkative today. I'm all talk. No, I can't be all talked out. I only talked for 20 minutes this morning on the video, so not all talked out, I don't think. Maybe I'm recovering. We had our neighbours over last night for a little bit of a catch up, a little bit of food, a little drink. It was only a little drink, it was a Monday night. But I did have a cheeky little glass of wine. Right, that's all of that bit done. And I'm going to go here, I'm going to run my thread in diagonal. Sometimes it just works better that way if there isn't a horizontal. You absolutely can run your thread. You can run it in whatever direction you like. Now I probably will save that piece. It looks like that's long enough to do a few bits of stitching with later on. So we'll put that back on here. That will go back on my floss drop. So I've got my main bundle, not that it's very big, in the middle. I've got short pieces over on this side, and if I had any, I've already got one there, you can see there is actually a short piece there. And then if I have any that I've pulled out ready to go, they'll be sat on this side. Which there should be one ready to go on here, because as I say, I pulled a few threads ready to go. So there we go. If I've got any ready to go, they will be on this side, short bits that side, full lengths on this side. Now I'm going to thread this up, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, so I'll talk a little bit about Iceland. So I'm going to show you my map, and then I'll talk you through. I've actually got my itinerary here, but I'll show you my map. We made this before we went to show where we went. So we started in Reykjavik, and then we stayed around this area, and we drove all the way around. We drove the ring road, stayed around here, carried on driving all the way around the ring road, stayed over here, drove all the way up through here, stayed in the North Akureyri, and then we drove again all the way around and stayed around here before finally coming back down to Reykjavik at the end. So we drove all the way around that ring road. We didn't get up over here at all, really, which is a shame. This peninsula and this bit, that's something to maybe go back and do. But so we saw lots all the way round. And I've got my little itinerary. I'm going to put this out for myself because that will remind me what we did, and then I can maybe chat to you about some of the things that we did as we were going. So as I say, we started off in Reykjavik and came back and had a few nights there at the end as well. And we didn't actually spend a huge amount of time doing anything very much in Reykjavik, at least not in the town centre. I guess I'm not actually that much of a person for cities. I kind of prefer all the natural stuff. So we did walk around Reykjavik a little bit, but yeah, not actually all that much. We did go at the end of the trip when we came back there. We did go out to, there's an area where they have a lot of the attractions, and we did go there and see a few. They've got lots of museums and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we did go and visit some of the bits and pieces in that area. And as I say, we did have a little bit of a walk around Reykjavik, but fairly quickly we were heading off to go and see all the natural wonders of Iceland, and oh my goodness, there were plenty. We dived straight into it then on day 2 at Thingvellir National Park, which is obviously of kind of great historical and political importance to Iceland. And also one of the places, there's a lot of places in Iceland where the two tectonic plates meet, and that's one of them, and you can see where the plates meet in Thingvellir National Park. So that was fun. That was very pretty. It was very cold that day. It really did vary a lot. I think it was much colder, unsurprisingly, on the days when it was windy. So yeah, there was definitely, it was quite chilly that day, but that was our first taste of beautiful Iceland, our first waterfall that we saw. I did try and write down what the names were, but I don't know whether I don't think I actually put the name of the waterfall for that one. Yeah, that was our first taste of waterfall, and I say it was getting quite chilly at the time of year that we were there. So a lot of the waterfalls, some of the really tiny ones were actually freezing over. Most of the bigger ones will still be going to greater or lesser extent. Most of the bigger ones don't freeze entirely, but they do end up coating all the rocks with all the spray then gets turned to ice, so you get all these beautiful frosty rocks and lovely kind of ice formations around the waterfalls as well, which is really pretty. It must be nice to see them in summer when there's probably more water, more greenery, all that good stuff. But yeah, they're still pretty spectacular, even in kind of autumn, winter. So yeah, what else did we do there? We then we had a day 3 now. We did lots on that particular day. We went to see the geysers. I've just paused just because I know I'm going to lose my train of thought. Okay, it's fine. I know where I am. Yeah, we went to see the geysers. So we went to see. There's one actually called Geyser that doesn't erupt very often anymore, but it's right next to one called Strokker that erupts every 6 to 10 minutes. So we spent a while walking around that area and saw that go off about half a dozen times. So yeah, big plume of water shooting up into the air. That was extremely cool. And lots of other geothermal activity there. I mean, we saw lots of geothermal activity all around the island. So places with water bubbling up, places with mud bubbling up out of the ground. Yeah, lots of steam. So the geysers, just yeah, it was kind of everywhere. It was crazy. So a lot of the Icelandic scenery just seemed really quite surreal. Just didn't really have any kind of frame of reference for that. Oh, that was the day as well when we saw the geysers. We had our first fish soup, which was so delicious. I have said before, and I think most people know, it is quite expensive to eat over there. But there was also a lot of very, very delicious food and lots of lovely soup. We had some fish soup. We had fish soup and we had seafood soup. I had mushroom soup, lots of vegetable soup. They do meat soup, but I'm not that fussed on meat soup. And lovely husband Dr. Tim is vegetarian, so he was very much not interested in that. He did manage to eat fairly well over there. I say he's vegetarian, he's actually pescatarian. So obviously with all the very delicious fish over there, he did fairly well. Had plenty to eat. Just going to give my thread a little untangle. There we go. So yes, very tasty food. We saw lots of waterfalls that day. Some sort of touristy ones. There's the more touristy waterfalls. So obviously more people. There's a reason they're touristy. They are impressive. We also saw a number that were a bit less touristy, and honestly, I perhaps enjoyed those almost a little bit more because they weren't so crammed full of people. Right, I think, so that particular day, about 3 days in, we saw Gullfoss, so that was one of the that's one of the well-known waterfalls, and we did catch that one with the rainbow over it as well. So that was really pretty. You can't get super close to that one. Again, because of the time of year that we went, there were some of the paths nearer some of the waterfalls were icy and slippery, so we wouldn't have been able to walk on those. They're closed at this time of year, so we couldn't get quite as up close and personal with some of the waterfalls. And yeah, that was one of them. Gullfoss, you can normally walk down much closer to it, and we couldn't at the time of year that we went. And we did also, around then, we went in a lava tunnel, which was pretty amazing. It's basically just a big hollowed out tunnel. It's basically where the lava has flown down, and then the lava flows, and then it all cools over the top, and then the lava keeps flowing through the middle and flows all the way out, and you end up just with this tunnel carved out by lava. And that was just fantastic just to walk through there. We had a lovely guide, he told us all about lava formations. It was the same with a lot of these things. They were fascinating and beautiful. So we felt like we were learning so much, as well as seeing all these absolutely magnificent things. And talking of magnificent, that evening on it was just our third day, we went to the most amazing restaurant. We had a silly expensive meal, but it was so good. It was basically a Viking longhouse with a grass roof, and it had all beams inside. And yeah, we had an absolutely stunning meal. We had a baked cheese to start. It was kind of like a brie or camembert type thing, but with honey and little bits of nuts and fruit and stuff on the top. It was outstanding. Lovely husband Dr. Tim is a big fan of cheese, all things cheese, and especially baked cheese, and he said it was the best one he'd ever had. I'm trying to work it if I've gone... No, that is the right place. So, yeah, I think he was right. It was amazing, and that was just the starter. And then we had amazing main course, fish main course, with side dishes of vegetables. We shared a pudding. It was, yeah. That meal will, when you have a meal and it just stays with you and you think, I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. It was that good. So yeah, that was a very, very early good start to to the holiday. So it was only a few days in and we'd seen so much already. Still really in that sort of really southwest kind of corner. Right, that's that bit. Let's finish this one. There we go. Pick my spot to run that in. Right, let's get the next colour. I do think the shading on this design, I've said it before, it's really beautiful. And you can see already, you can see the shading in the foxtail down here. And this is just more of the same. So we carried on our journey in Iceland with a day of, I think it was the day we saw the most waterfalls. So we're still in the south and we saw lots of touristy ones and lots of non-touristy ones. We saw my favourite one, which was, let me see, I have got the name down here, Vernifoss. And the reason I like that one so much, if I can, I will put in, I know I'm stitching, I'm going to put a little picture in for you, because the reason I love this one is it wasn't too many people, it was just very pretty, you know, it wasn't the widest, it was quite tall, but, you know, not the biggest waterfall, but you could walk behind this one. And it was the only one we got to walk behind. So it was a little bit of a novelty. And for that and the fact that it wasn't absolutely rammed with people, I think it was one of my favourites. But yeah, we did see some impressive ones that particular day. And we went to the lava centre as well. So that was great, learning all about volcanoes. So again, something that Tim and I very much enjoy is, you know, learning about things. Annoyingly, my brain is not very good at remembering the things. I enjoy learning about it. Whether I can remember it is entirely another matter. And then it was around this time, around day 4, that we had our amazing Northern Lights experience. Which, yeah, I could gush for ages about how amazing that was. It was incredible, and I think we got really lucky to have one night in particular where it was just an absolutely spectacular display, and we happened to be in a hotel kind of in the middle of nowhere at the time. So we were so privileged to be able to stand out under the sky and just see the Northern Lights absolutely plastered across the sky. It's an incredible experience. And even though you could see everything really well with the naked eye, you can see it better in photos, but you really could see it amazingly just with your eyes. And you kind of have to remember to do that because you really want to experience it. You do want some photos, of course you want some photos, but the photos don't do it justice, and you really just want those as a little bit of a jog to the memory of how amazing it actually was in person. And yeah, I'm always going to have those amazing memories, and it was one of the big reasons we went to Iceland, and we felt so lucky that particular night it just ticked that box so completely. It was so spectacular that we were completely satisfied. We'd have been very happy to see it again, and we did a little bit, but nothing like that. And I think we were still happy. We were still absolutely delighted with what we saw. So yeah, absolutely incredible. And I say that was day 4. I think 1, 2, yeah, that we were seeing that. So yeah, you can imagine how we felt even at that point in the holiday, that we felt like we'd seen so much. We'd ticked the Northern Lights box. We'd had some amazing food. We'd had really good weather. We had good weather for most of it. It got a little bit grayer and a little bit more snowy later on, but yeah. And actually the next day after that was also incredible, because we went on a guided hike on a glacier, which was, again, it's hard to describe when you're this tiny little person just hiking on this massive glacier that if you hiked all the way across, it would take you 10 days, and that would be in good conditions to hike across it. So yeah, that was a very amazing experience. Again, definitely one of my highlights, I think, was hiking on the glacier. And a few more waterfalls after that as well, just to round that day off. Then we were moving further along the south coast, and I'd had some recommendations to not miss Diamond Beach and the Jökulsárlón glacial lake, which was definitely not to be missed. That was incredible. And you're just seeing all these little bits of ice and large bits of ice all just washing up on a black sand beach. The contrast is incredible. It is absolutely stunning. And we were there quite early in the morning, and just watching the light bouncing off of these bits of ice, all crazy different shaped bits of ice, little bits, big bits, smooth bits, jaggedy bits, and just the light bouncing off of that was really special. So yeah, we really enjoyed that one. And then we were driving all the way around through the East Fjords. We did stop for a night over there, which was very pretty over there. And that's a long drive, because as you're driving all the way around the fjords, there's no real good way to avoid driving. You have to drive in and round and in and round. So you're driving back and forth and back and forth. It was beautiful, beautiful scenery. I mean, every single bit of scenery in Iceland is just stunning. So yeah, we didn't have very much time in the East Fjords, and part of me thinks, oh, actually I don't want to do that stitch there. Part of me thinks it was not worth doing it, but it was, to have that experience of driving all the way around the island. I think it was really fun, and to see all the different parts of it and kind of understand how it all fits together and how different all the parts are. That was really nice. I think I've just done... Okay. Hold up a minute while yeah, I'm going rogue with my stitching while I'm chatting. That's better. So then, yeah, we did have a bit of driving, because we had to get round, I'd say, all the way round to the East Fjords, and then all the way from the East Fjords back to the sort of middle top of the island, so up in the north. So it was quite a bit of driving. I had a few stops along the way whilst we were driving, for waterfalls, of course, to stop and get out and see some waterfalls along the way. And then we had quite a few days up in Akureyri at the top, of the island. Which is quite nice to have. Most of the places we stayed, we did have at least 2 nights in the hotels, which definitely helped, because otherwise you're kind of going here, there and everywhere, and having at least a couple of nights in each hotel was great. We actually had 4 nights up in Akureyri, which we maybe didn't need, but it was also a nice break at that point, because we were kind of halfway through the holiday and just having a tiny little bit more downtime was actually quite nice. And of course we went off and saw more waterfalls. We went off on a day tour that we'd booked. So we went off and saw some, again, really sort of touristy but amazing. We went to see Selfoss, Godafoss and Dettifoss. So we got driven around in a little, a very small minibus with some other folks. We had a driver who took us around and took us to those waterfalls, which was nice, saved us a day of driving. And again, he could chat to us about lots of history and what have you as well, which was really, really fun. What else did we do? Oh, a whole lot of the area up there. There is a big Lake Mivat, which is, there's a lot of Game of Thrones filming happened in that area. So we did go to a few locations where various bits of Game of Thrones were filmed. Lots of amazing lava formations up there. That was, again, really stunning. And then let me see. I'm going to move my notes as we're getting towards the end of the holiday at this point. What else? Then we were driving back down from north, sort of back down towards, but not quite as far as Reykjavik, and had another glacier experience. Again, different, but absolutely amazing. And this one was where we got driven right up, quite high up on a glacier. It was the hike, we stayed quite low down on the glacier. On this particular one, we were taken on a different glacier, much higher up. And we got to go into an ice tunnel. It was 1 kilometre long, this ice tunnel. And yeah, just crazy. It's a man-made one. There are natural ones in Iceland as well, but this one that we visited was actually a man-made ice tunnel. And no less incredible for that. It was absolutely beautiful. So yeah, we enjoyed that. And then pretty much after that, we were back down to Reykjavik for a couple of days. So we went and did a few of the sort of museums and attractions and things in the Reykjavik area. And of course, the one I haven't mentioned at all. At this point, we hadn't actually been in any of the hot springs or hot lagoons or anything that were around. We saved that near the end and we went to the Sky Lagoon. So this was recommended to us instead of going to the Blue Lagoon. And it's still quite busy, the Sky Lagoon, but probably not quite so much as the Blue Lagoon. And it was gorgeous. It was so cosy and warm, and we were in there for so long. We were both, all our skin was very pruny after we'd been in there for quite a while. But it's just so nice, just floating around in there, just enjoying the lovely warm water, surrounded by beautiful scenery. Yeah, again, quite surreal. And we did the 7-step ritual there as well, which I highly recommend. It was really nice. So that involved a cold plunge pool. Not so nice, that bit. I did have to force myself to hop in the cold plunge, but I figured I had to do it properly. So cold plunge pool, then the sauna, then some sort of cleansing, refreshing mist. There was a salt scrub, sort of body scrub type thing. You sort of scrubbed and, you know, put all over yourself, and then went in the steam room, so it all melted in and made your skin beautifully soft. And then a little rinse, and then they give you a little shot of a little sort of berry juice smoothie type thing. And then back in the lagoon for a bit more chilling. So yeah, that was very relaxing. I do feel like I could have just stayed in there for even longer, but we did have to get out eventually. And I enjoyed having that saved for the end of the holiday. It felt like a fitting end to it all. Right, talking of end, we've been going for a while already. I did tell you I could chat about Iceland for ages. Not much stitchy chat today, but time for just a little bit more, I think. Now, I've left this one, so this is the white blanc that I'm doing at the moment, and I've left, this is the piece that I'm my kind of working thread, and I wanted to show you what I do because I know that I'm going to need a few pieces of this. So what I'll do is take off a piece, and then I'm going to take another one, and if I know I'm going to need lots, then I would even separate out these two as well. I'm not sure I'm going to, but, and again, for sake of time, I'll just go with that. But then I'll put that one back on, and then however many single strands I've pulled off, I'm just going to put those all back on the side here as well. So it just helps if I know I'm going to do an area where I'm going to need more than one piece, more than one strand. I may as well take a few out, separate them all at once, put them back on there ready to go. It's just a little bit more efficient, just get that little bit extra speed. I wouldn't bother separating ones if I know I'm not going to need several pieces, but when you're working in an area and you know you're going to need several, then you may as well separate them all up front, and then you're good to go. So I've been working on Winter's Gift. Actually, I think I've only worked on her one day this month so far. She's scheduled for me to work on her for 5 days. So this is the second day of that. So I'm hoping I can get quite a long way with her in those 5 days, because there's still a fair bit to do, but I'm absolutely in the home stretch on this. So I said I wanted to finish her this winter. So I started stitching her last winter. I think it was about November time. And I stitched her until somewhere in January, February, and then put her down to bring out and stitch winter this year. So obviously I've been working on her, and I'd very much like to finish stitching her this year. Now, obviously winter, I could carry her into January, February next year. That would still be winter, but I don't know. I think as I've started getting a little bit closer to a finish, I'm getting kind of eager to get her done. So yeah, we'll see. definitely that time of year where I'm kind of hankering after some good winter and Christmas stitching. I think I have a suspicion I just missed a stitch in there. I'll pop it back in momentarily. Missing a stitch is never the worst, is it, if you spot it fairly quickly? It's doing an extra stitch. Oh. Yeah, that one's annoying. Because then the frog comes out to play. And honestly, I don't know which is worse. Having to frog a whole lot or having to frog just when it's one stitch. Oh, that is a bit of a nuisance, to be honest. If you frog one stitch and then you've got to try and run those little tiny ends in, and oh, I hate it. Well, I think we'll get towards the end of this thread and then probably call it a day. Which means we've still got a few more minutes because I've got a little bit more stitching to do with this one. And then I'm going to be torn between carrying on with this, because once I've picked this up, it's very hard to put her down. But also I've got my own Christmas pattern that I'm designing. And I'm so late designing Christmas patterns this year, it's ridiculous. Oh, I've got a tiny little, that's it, I had a tiny little bump there. Yeah, I would normally have Christmas patterns, but I'm going to blame Iceland because I can't feel sad about that. That's an extremely good reason to be behind on Christmas designing, is a trip to Iceland. But yes, I will still try and get something out, and I've just got to the point where I'm ready to start test stitching, which is always really exciting. When you see the design you've been kind of agonising over and designing in the software for ages, you start to see it coming to life in stitches. That is particularly fun. The designing still goes on at that point because I very often tweak things, tweak the actual design or the colours, so the process is very far from over, but it is nice to get to that bit where you can start test stitching it. So I'm kind of torn now between working on that and working on this. No, I think I've done one too many stitches. No, I haven't. That's correct. I mean, let's be honest, I'm always torn between my whips, aren't I? Because this is what happens when you have, I won't say too many whips, but I do think it'd be slightly easier if I had less. And that's even having ones that are inactive sort of temporarily until perhaps the season changes and it comes back round and I want to get back into them again. I've definitely got ones that are sort of, or at least one sitting waiting for spring. So yeah, it's I love having lots of different things to work on, but I also hate when I can't make progress on all those things all at the same time. So yeah, something needs to give. Oh no, now I have gone way too far. Right, I'm not. Right, I'll show you something that I do, which you really shouldn't do, is I need to take this stitch out. What I sometimes do is come back up where my needle's gone down. I'll basically reverse stitch to undo it. Let's see if I can manage it. There you go. It actually worked on that occasion. I usually tell myself, don't do that, because half the time if you try and reverse stitch to undo your stitches, all that happens is that you don't get it quite right. You end up just catching it a tiny little bit, it doesn't unpick properly, and then you just have to, well, you've made even more of a mess then, to be honest. So I can't recommend doing that, she says, having just done it. Now I'm not 100% sure where I've got to on here. I think I probably need to. I'm probably going to leave it there for a little bit, to be honest. Let me stick that needle in the back there, because I think I need to do a little bit of crossing off. Having done that on my pattern, on my stitching there, I do need to, I think, cross this bit off that I've done so that I can actually see where I am on my pattern, see where I've got up to, and check what else I need to stitch. But yeah, I think that is looking lovely. I've got a little bit of fox body. So yeah, I've just got to do, and that's almost as far out as he goes. There's a little bit more out here to do. His little head is going to go just in here. His little paw is just up there. That's not his paw. That's a bit more of a gap than I normally leave, but hey ho. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this stitch with me. I hope you've got lots of stitching done yourself. And I will be back in a week's time with a floss tube. So you'll probably see this one coming back out again in a week's time on my floss tube. If you're not already a subscriber, then I would be so delighted if you subscribed to the channel, and then you won't miss a single stitch, whether it's Stitch With Me videos, tip and tutorial videos, or just my regular floss tubes. Make sure you subscribe and keep up with all of that good stitchy stuff. And of course, come and join me on Patreon as well. I am going to give it another plug because I am so excited for how much stitchy fun we're all going to have over there. So I'd love to see you there too. So until next time, happy stitching and bye for now.